Welcome to The Heart of the Matter, an Our Place podcast, where we look at the issues surrounding homelessness, addiction, and mental health on the streets of Greater Victoria.
Welcome. I'm Grant McKenzie, and welcome to Heart of the Matter, the Our Place podcast. Today, I'm joined by Le-Ann, who is intake coordinator for New Roads. Welcome, Le-Ann.
Thank you. It's nice to be here, Grant. Thank you.
Great. So for a lot of our listeners that might not quite know what New Roads is, it's a therapeutic recovery community based in the former Youth Custody Centre in Vancouver. But could you describe kind of what it is, what the program is?
Sure. We're a therapeutic, as you said, we're a therapeutic recovery community, and we are located in the old Youth Custody Centre right behind the Victoria General Hospital in View Royal. The program runs 9 months to 24 months, and it's for substance use disorders. And we work with people who have moderate to severe substance use disorder or addiction, which is commonly talked about as addiction. And so we're working with men who are over 19 years old. And the program itself is modeled after San Patriano in Italy. And we know that Portugal also has many now therapeutic recovery communities, and it's becoming a model that's used within the recovery community, worldwide. And so the idea behind it is you use community as method. And so when somebody comes into our community, all of the other residents surround that person and help them to kind of orient into the community and become part of the group. So kind of that theory that you hear, or one of the things that you hear, that the opposite of addiction is connection. And so we know that it allows people to do their healing work. And then once they're here and they've been here for several weeks, they start to do a deep dive into what's going on behind their substance use. So people don't start out being addicts, or having this disorder. They, it really, honestly, there's a lot goes on for people. It was actually one of the surprises that I found as doing the intake work here, and I've talked to over 1,000 men now, and the actual what I hear consistently is childhood adversity, so trauma in their childhood. And I don't ask that question. It's just something that comes up. And so we know that these folks are starting out in a rough way in their lives, and they do end up with addiction. And so their ability to do some of that healing, we have therapists here that have expertise in working with trauma.
Yeah, certainly. I mean, the people on the street that I talk to, on a daily basis, I don't think there's any men or women who are on the street that haven't suffered some form of childhood trauma or abuse, everything from prenatal to, sexual, physical, verbal, mental abuse in their lives. I mean, it starts at an early age. It's not a choice we make as adults. It's
exactly
becomes part of it.
Often that's generational, so intergenerational. It's I'm obviously not blaming parents or anything like that. It is, we see an intergenerational, so that's what's happening.
So what's the main pathway for someone who ends up on your docket to looking for entrance? What would be some of the main ways that would happen?
Right. So, yeah, we've been open for just over 4 years now. So we're a young program. We're starting to be quite well known now, and people can come in to us. They can phone me, and I will take that call from the community or email me. Most of the people from the community that find their way here, if they're not already connected in with a service provider, they find us on Our Place website. And so, New Roads has a spot on that website. We're a program of Our Place, and so my contact information is there, and I try and get back to people as quickly as possible. We most of the men that we're working with, they do come to us through either one of the island health teams, like through detox or stabilization, through hospital. We have a lot of people that come in through hospital. They've overdosed and they're in hospital, and so that's kind of a moment of clarity that they have a chance to think about some treatment options. And then also through the BC corrections. So they come to us through mostly VIRCC, or the Vancouver Island Regional Correctional Center, where I go out every week and interview men in the correctional center for that are considering or wanting treatment. And we work very closely with the courts here, and they help to make that possible.
Yeah, I've always found it quite interesting, the breadth of the clientele. Like, I remember there was one person there who needed some extensive surgery, but they had to be sober for a certain period of time before the doctors would agree to do that. And then so that's definitely the health system, and that's kind of the kit for someone to get sober. It's then the prison, and of course from the community. It's quite something. What does success look like at New Roads, and how does it differ from other programs?
Right. That's a great question, and something that we often talk about amongst ourselves, not only the staff but also the whole community, the residents here as well. So success. So one of the things that was a surprise to me when I started to work here was the extent of the medical needs of people coming in, the physical needs. And I think it was something that we probably underestimated or didn't consider the extent of that when we were planning this program. And so, success is that we help 10 people complete their hepatitis C treatment last year. Very expensive treatment that is not available to somebody who's on living without housing. But I often think about we graduate. When people graduate from here, we do a big celebration, and there's a blanket ceremony, and it's quite quite an event. But when you think about people being here 30, 60, 90 days, which is your average treatment center that you would find on the island here, we're way up around 80% of our people stay that long, and then on from there. But when I think about success as a frontline worker, and what touches my heart when it comes to success, we have a morning meeting. This morning, somebody stood up and said they've been substance free for 10 months. Somebody else said 6 months. These are people who have lived on the streets for decades. They're people that I met at Our Place downtown. I think of one person that I came downtown and did, and was helped by the staff at Our Place, and in the drop-in there. And when I showed up, he was so far under the influence that he was sitting in the middle of the sidewalk. We helped him move inside. He didn't come in that day, but he ended up in hospital, and he came in. He's graduated. He's now working full time. He's reunited with his family. This is what's happening happening here is that, you know, people that have had, as I said, decades on the street are, you know, when they either come in through hospital, sometimes they come in through corrections, but they're all the same people. You know, it's just where we catch them in the cycle. Yeah.
It certainly seems like New Roads gives the hope end of the spectrum. You know, I mean, we talk about hope a lot, you know, and hope can just be getting someone off the sidewalk into a nice warm place where they can have a cup of coffee and a conversation. And then the end result, or the end of that rainbow, is hopefully graduating from New Roads. It's quite spectacular. It must give you a real sense of joy when you see those graduates, when you see the evolution of the people that come there.
Yeah, I mean, words don't even describe what we get to see here and the miracles that are happening here, and you know, the appreciations of the family, but the people themselves, they just change from when they come in to when they leave. And you know, we see it, you know, at the beginning when they're here in the program, they're pretty self-centered, and as addiction and recovery goes, you know, very self-centered, and what can I get? It's kind of that scarcity mentality, and you know, and then something will happen here where one of the other residents will end up in the hospital or something, and they'll say, oh, I sure hope they're going to be okay. And it's like, oh, compassion. Okay, so now you're starting to care about yourself and the other people in the program, your peers. And then they start to care about themselves, their peers, and the whole community, and the running of the community. The residents run the community here, so they do all the maintenance here. They do we have an, as you know, Grant, but for the purpose of this, we have an extensive garden here. We have chickens, beehives. You know, we have a kitchen that, you know, that the residents partake in. We do have a chef here, and he teaches the residents how to cook. Everybody that comes into our program has to do a stint in our kitchen so that they know how to cook when they leave. You know, sometimes it's rehabilitation, but a lot of times it's habilitation. They've never learned any of this. They don't know how to be. And so it's teaching that and learning that, and those are the miracles. Those are the successes.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I've noticed that you've just recently opened up a new sort of children's area for when family comes to visit. Is that one of the main motivations for people, is reconnection with family? Is that one of the reasons why they want to go into recovery?
A lot of times I hear, it depends really. And surprisingly, a lot of times people coming in from the BC Corrections stream, I hear they want to reunite with their children. It's mostly their children that people are interested in. People that have been living rough on the street for a long time, it's mostly they're looking for reunification with their family of origin. Although it doesn't always emerge as a motivator. Like, that's not the first thing that they tell me when I talk to them. It's when they've been here a while and they see other people, their peers, reuniting with their families, you know, and then they're like, well, I wouldn't mind calling my sister, my dad, or my mom. And I mean, you know, these are relationships that, quite frankly, they've burned down. You know, like they're honestly, there's so much damage in those relationships. And because it's such a long program, you know, they can earn back the trust of their families.
That leads me to what happens if someone relapses or I don't want to say fails in the program, because you know, they do have some, but who leaves the program early. Right.
So, you know, there's different ways that people leave our program. So if somebody uses drugs inside of our program, they are asked to leave the program. If there's a violence in our program, somebody isn't able to regulate their emotion around anger. We will ask them to leave the program. That it happens rarely. That, you know, we don't see that very much here. When people leave early, and one of the things that I hear is, "I've got this." And, you know, the truth is they don't got this. You know, they leave the program, and usually within a week or 2 weeks, I'm hearing from them. They're wanting to come back. Almost, I would say, maybe between 85 and 90% of the time that happens. It's high. And so we do have a policy here that you know, you need to be out of the program for 6 weeks before you can reapply. And that is so people are it's very clear, you know, you can't go out and kind of have a party for the weekend and come back on Monday. That's not the way the program works, and they're responsible to the other community members. So, you know, they reapply, and we bring it back to the whole community. So we bring it back to all of the residents, all of the staff, and we say, this person wants to come back. And here's what they said. Here's what they said happened. Here's what they're committing to going forward. Here's what they would like the community to hear. And we make a decision as a community. I mean, you know, the staff has the final. Obviously, we're not putting that on the residents, but it comes with everybody's input into the process. Many people have been here more than once.
And what happens when someone successfully graduates the program? What's the next step for them? Yeah.
So by the time somebody's left our program, they're in the 4th phase, and by that time they've developed a sober community, or a recovery community outside of our program. So they're going to meetings, whatever they are, the AA, NA, Smart Recovery. They have a sponsor. So they're already connected into the recovery community and the alumni from our program. They come back and take people to meetings. And so they have a whole community around their recovery. They have, they're working either part-time or full-time, or they're going to school. So they've got something to do during the day. And they've got housing. So we help them with housing. Sometimes they go into our 2nd stage housing, which is called JMAC House. And that is only available to graduates from our program. People who need a little bit more support, they're not quite ready to go out into market rent. But many people have now reunited with their children, and they go back and are able to, you know, be in market rent and be with their children. It's a very good day at New Roads when we have people are graduating. For example, in January we had 2 individuals who graduated our program, and you know, and they're both working full time. They're both very involved in the recovery community. They both, one went to market rent and one went to JMAC House, and so, you know, they're connected. We kind of have a forever connection here. They can always reach back in. We have a continuing care provider here that reaches out to people.
Yeah, I think that's great. And I also know that a lot of your graduates and people in your program work with another Our Place program, Our Workplace, and get into employment through that. And so there's a real symbiosis between all the programs, I think, is really cool to see.
Yeah, they definitely do. And it makes a difference, because, you know, there's people need to be comfortable where they are. You know, if somebody has lived for decades, you know, rough on the street, and they go into a workplace where everybody's in suits and ties, I mean, it's almost a setup for failure for that person. You know, we really try and work with people to ensure their success as best we can. We don't have crystal balls, so obviously we can't tell for sure, but we've seen some amazing successes here.
Excellent. Well, anything I've missed?
Yeah, the one thing that I would say is that, it is taking the whole community to do this, as you've kind of alluded to, and it takes the island health teams, it takes the teams at the Our Place, all the sites. We work with Kool-Aid Society, we work with a lot of different teams to make this happen. What we know is that for somebody to be in prison for a year, to be in treatment is half the cost. So it has a good economical value as well as the money that's saved. The person isn't going into hospital every month or every 2 months or losing their lives.
Well, thank you very much for joining me today, Le-Ann, and I wish you much success with the program.
Thanks so much for having me, Grant.
You've been listening to the Heart of the Matter podcast. For more information about Our Place and the vital programs and services provided to the Greater Victoria community, please go to www.ourplacesociety.com. Our Place is a registered BC charity. You can donate by visiting the website or by calling 250-940-5060. Help us to bring hope and belonging to those in need.